New Starfield release date window. Latest news and gameplay at last. The Starfield release date has been delayed, but we've still got the latest trailers, news, and gameplay details about the new Bethesda RPG game. When is the Starfield release date? It was officially going to be November 2022, but Bethesda has recently announced a Starfield delay into 2023. We'll have to wait a bit longer for the first new Bethesda series in 25 years. After Bethesda's online-only title, Fallout 76, disappointed us as much as it did fans of the post-apocalyptic games series. However, Starfield is a surer prospect in some ways, a single-player game, just like Skyrim and Fallout 4 before it. In other ways, it's bolder and stranger, a completely new universe, whereas Fallout and the Elder Scrolls are rooted in decades of established lore, locations, and creatures. Here's everything we know about Starfield. The original Starfield announcement trailer came out a long time ago in 2018. Since then, we got a Starfield teaser trailer from June 2021, and a much bigger showcase of gameplay in June 2022. The recent Xbox and Bethesda Games showcase gave us an in-depth look at Starfield's mechanics and systems. The gameplay demo starts on a bug-infested planet where the player mines iron from a cave before heading into the Crete research lab. Here, we find that the Crimson Fleet, one of the many Starfield factions, is plundering for treasure. These pirates are hostile, giving us a chance to see some Starfield guns in action, such as the Grendel machine gun. The combat looks very similar to Fallout 4's, except there's no VATS system to rely on. Game director Todd Howard then reveals the character creation tool, and the many Starfield backgrounds and Starfield traits your astronaut can start with on their journey through the cosmos. The gameplay gives us a glimpse of the Starfield skills and a brief introduction to Starfield research laboratory projects. Then Todd Howard brings the big guns and unveils Starfield's ship customization. Players completely customizing their look, layout and performance of their spacecraft, down to individual modules from different manufacturers. The gameplay reveal closes out with an explanation of Starfield's scale. Players can land and explore anywhere they choose, on any planet, in over 100 star systems, meaning a fully explorable galaxy of over 1,000 planets. Finally, there's a section dedicated to Starfield base building, including the ability to design and fly your own spaceship. In addition to space combat, this spaceship will be handy for exploring the many Starfield planets in the known universe, over 1,000 of them according to Howard. In an IGN interview with Howard, he confirms that Starfield features some procedural generation but that the team at Bethesda have done more handcrafting in this game, content-wise, than any other game. Howard quantified the amount of handcrafted content with some numbers, saying the game's at over 200,000 lines of dialogue. Elsewhere in that interview, Howard estimates the length of Starfield's main story as being around 20% longer than the main quests in Skyrim and Fallout 4. We got a pretty good look at creating and leveling a character during the June Xbox and Bethesda showcase. We saw some templates, body shapes and sizes, skin tones, and hairstyles for your character's physical appearance, though not the details of their faces. You'll choose a background, options like Combat Medic, Bouncer, Professor, or Homesteader, which all come with 3 starting skills. Character skills are things you'll recognize as Bethesda RPG staples: medicine, lasers, persuasion, bargaining, and the like. As for leveling those skills, Todd Howard says that Starfield's system combines the best from our previous games, meaning that you'll unlock new skills as you level up and then upgrade those skills by using them or completing challenges. If that's not enough role-playing, Starfield also has traits, another system familiar from past games. These are optional choices for your character that come with pros and cons. Spaced gives you increased health and endurance while in space but decreased on the surface, for instance. Starfield is launching in the first half of 2023. Its original release date was planned for November 11, 2022. Bethesda announced the delay in May 2022, saying that the teams at Arcane Austin, Redfall, and Bethesda Game Studios, Starfield, have incredible ambitions for their games, and we want to ensure that you receive the best, most polished versions of them. The 2022 Xbox and Bethesda showcase gave us our long-awaited first look at real Starfield gameplay, and Todd Howard brought plenty to show the class. On a desolate sulphurous moon called Crete, we get our introduction to an interstellar Bethesda open world, which gives way to gunplay against space bandits. Clips of NPC conversations give us a sense of the player's overarching goal, and the factions they can join throughout their explorations. We get a glimpse of character creation, which Howard calls Bethesda's most flexible yet. There's a skill system, where skills chosen with each level up can gain additional ranks as they're used to provide more benefits. A crafting system will let players modify and customize their space guns. Players will be able to establish outposts as they explore alien worlds, using mechanics that seem more elaborate and fully implemented than the base building in Fallout 4. Starfield will have more handcrafted content than any other Bethesda game. In an interview with IGN, Todd Howard addressed concerns that followed the news of Starfield's 1,000 planets, and whether the procedural generation they'd involve would mean a dearth of polished game to play. While Howard made a point that procedural content was nothing new for Bethesda games, noting Skyrim's procedural Radiant Quest engine, he said that Starfall would have more handmade content than any of the studio's other games. Starfield's ship combat is inspired by FTL and MechWarrior. In an interview with IGN, Todd Howard described Starfield's ship combat as having a slower tempo. Think gunships hurling munitions at each other more than nimble starfighters. Howard made explicit call-outs to games like FTL and the MechWarrior series, indicating that combat will involve switching power between your shipboard systems. In practice, this might look something like shifting power from your ship's shields to your weapons, ensuring you can score a finishing blow against an enemy ship on its last legs. Or if you're in a tough spot, maybe you'd move all your ship's available energy to its thrusters, to give you a better chance of outrunning hostiles. Worth noting is that, if you do manage to disable an enemy ship, you can take it for yourself. Bethesda's Pete Hines confirmed that it's possible to board other spaceships and fly off with them, after you've dealt with the crew inside, presumably. In a recent video, Bethesda showed off Vasco for the first time. This expeditionary robot for Constellation will presumably be Starfield's default companion, similar to Dogmeat in Fallout 4. Originally built by Luna Robotics, Vasco was refurbished to handle the rigors of expeditionary space travel, and while he still has some weapons, it sounds like he's more of a workhorse with storage capacity and a variety of gear to aid you in exploration. In the second episode of the development diary, Into the Starfield, that released recently, Todd Howard talked about Starfield, covering a variety of subjects, from different factions to Starfield's dialogue system. He also focused in on the depth of character backstory and creation. Some things we didn't do in older games. The backgrounds, the traits, defining your character, all of those stats. Starfield's aiming for a lot of the things that older hardcore RPGs, something we used to do, doing those again in a new way. One of the recent trailers breaks down the region of space known as the settled systems, a 50 light-year radius around our own solar system where humanity has spread out. It's divided up between two major factions, the United Colonies and the Free Star Collective, who are at an uneasy peace after a recent war. It also touches on some of the other threats the player might face: ecliptic mercenaries, pirates of the Crimson Fleet, violent spaces, or even the fanatical religious zealots of House Varun. Space is a dangerous place, so it's no surprise that the settled systems will have any number of groups angling to meet their own ends. We don't know anything about Starfield's main story yet, but there are definitely going to be factions at play in the world like other major Bethesda RPGs. Todd Howard said Starfield is like Skyrim in space, and will feature factions, with Constellation, a group of human explorers, being the main one. It's like NASA meets Indiana Jones meets the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, a group of people that are still searching for answers, Howard said. There are a lot of factions in the game, but Constellation is the main one that you'll become a part of. It's kind of like Skyrim in terms of the structure of the game, where you're going to be who you want to be, and then there's different factions that you can join, and really carve your own path. Also like Skyrim and Bethesda's Fallout games, Starfield will be playable both in first and third-person perspectives. In the same E3 chat between Howard and Musk mentioned, Howard said that he toured Musk's company SpaceX for Starfield research and inspiration. It's not clear how this inspiration will manifest, but Howard did mention that helium-3, a speculative fuel for nuclear fusion, could be the isotope used to fuel Starfield's ships, or at least is something to be debated. The look of the ship in the trailer shows futuristic yet still recognizable tech. Lots of buttons and switches like the cockpits we have today, as opposed to super exotic technology we see in games like Mass Effect. Other than that, Starfield has a new Steam page that went live last year, and the lead animator recently talked about the game's NASA punk aesthetic. A lot of details on Starfield were revealed at E3 2021 during the joint Microsoft and Bethesda stream as well. In a 2021 interview with The Telegraph, Todd Howard explains that Starfield is a bit more hardcore of a role-playing game. He also confirms that Bethesda is going back to things that we used to do in games long ago that we felt have really let players express the character they want to be. Todd Howard confirms that Starfield will be a solo experience. Unfortunately for PlayStation fans wondering if Starfield will launch on PS5, the answer is no. Microsoft Studios general manager Aaron Greenberg shared that Starfield's exclusivity is here to stay, and the game is not a timed exclusive. That's everything we know about Starfield so far. If you like what we put out every day here, please consider subscribing. That will help us out a lot, and click the small bell icon for future updates. As always, thank you for watching. See you guys on the next one.